Hello, this is the Inspiring Minds with Blissful Botanicals, where we holistically seek the truth in life using our entrepreneurial spirit. I'm your host, JR Knopp. All right, everybody, welcome back. I got a good guy with me named Ross. Ross, tell us kind of what do you do and what you got going on?
Yeah, my name is Ross Ifaw. I'm a co-founder and owner of Greener Things. We are considered a CBD dispensary or a hemp retailer out here in Virginia, in Charlottesville, Virginia. Myself have been in the cannabis space since 2010, roughly, and doing various jobs in different states throughout the industry since then, and I've been operating Greener Things since 2019.
Okay. What inspires you to go down this route?
My career started out in California, in 2010-ish. I was basically just working in a dispensary at that time, and it's called Elemental Wellness. I think it's still around, and basically just climbed the ranks at that place from a bud tender to a department manager. Eventually got close to the founder of that company in San Jose, California at the time. And then he sort of more or less recruited me down to Los Angeles to help start a large facility down there out in Woodland Hills. And so I helped get that off the ground, just as part of a consulting firm, basically. And and then in 2018, I took a job with a company in Los Angeles called Canna Kids. That company's still around, but they operate under a different name now. But basically, Canna Kids, a part of a nonprofit associated with a nonprofit called Praise for Sophie, is basically an organization that is designed to provide cannabis therapies for sick children and also
Okay.
adults,
Okay.
those who depend on cannabis therapies for everything from epilepsy to cancer, to ADHD, Tourette's, all that kind of stuff. And so, from my perspective, it really just highlighted how there are a lot of people, and including children and good people who really do rely on cannabis therapies is literally one of the only things that works for them. So I always say, cannabis isn't for everybody, but for some people, it's the only thing that works. So.
Oh, yeah. Well, and a lot of people don't realize that we make cannabinoids naturally in our own body, so it really goes well with our physiology. And you're right, it's not for everybody. I mean, I totally can vouch for that. And some people it is life-changing and it's very necessary. And it's always baffled me why they continue to keep it on the illegal realm when they can actually prove and show how much good it's done. And they still have in a lot of states this fight, and even on the federal level, this fight to just keep it Scheduled 1, which I get there's probably profit motives beyond actually helping people and not looking out to the best interest of the American people. But that's my one man opinion. So I don't,
Well,
wherever you fall in that.
it's sort of the way the landscape is, and unfortunately, it's you're right, and I agree with you. I mean, this industry would be a lot farther along than it is today if there weren't so many politics involved to working against the progression of the
Mhm.
industry, because there are stakeholders in the industry already that don't want to give up market share, and there are also outside forces working against the industry as a whole that don't want to
Mhm.
give up their own market share or client base.
Oh yeah, 100%. I'm here in Nebraska, and I know for a fact one of the big proponents against that is the law enforcement itself, but it's also the private prison system that's set up because, they got to meet certain quotas, and it's easier to put nonviolent, basically potheads into jail than it is to actually do real criminals and keep them there, but that's, once again, kind of my opinion there on that as well.
Yeah, the private prison system, recidivism rate, that all goes into, the greater political scheme. But even within the cannabis industry itself, it's like now you have multi-state, corporate operators who
Yep.
are working against small businesses, even within the
Yep.
cannabis industry, because, they've got their millions of dollars in corporate footholding already, and they don't want to share it all. So
Oh yeah.
and meanwhile, you've got places like us who are just trying to survive and provide for our families, and we have to work against the very industry that we basically came out of, because
Mm.
those who have made it don't want to share and don't want to open up avenues for other small businesses to potentially compete with them.
Yeah, I've seen that a lot in like the already established, like out in Colorado. I go up there quite a bit, and I've noticed that like the bigger corporations now are making it even harder to get licenses and driving the price down to a certain level and just making it damn near impossible for a small business owner to keep up with it. And you're right. It's like they're pulling the ladder up after them. It's like, hey, we got you up to this top, and they're like, all right, see you fuckers later. Bang, kicked you back down the path. It seems like sometimes.
Yeah, it's all the goalposts are always moving, and it's a constantly a shifting sands environment. So it's hard to get established when you can't get a good foundation underneath you.
Yeah. So what inspired you to go? I take it you moved to Charlottesville, or
Yeah,
moved back? Are you from there, or what made you leave California?
yeah. I mean, those I left California mainly for personal family reasons. At the
Okay, okay.
time, yeah, at the time I had a daughter in 2017, and her mother, who I was with at that time, was from Charlottesville, and so we moved back here. We moved here so she could be closer to family. That relationship didn't end up working out, but obviously started the business, and now I've got two kids out here, and so that's sort of the short and long how I ended up in Charlottesville. So now, I've got my two kids in the business, and now I got three babies to take care of out here, so I'm here.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, starting your own business is basically raising a kid sometimes, or at least it's the equivalent, I've come to understand. And what, so you moved back there and you decided to stay, you found a need in the industry out there. Are you guys recreational, or are you guys just all pure CBD and hemp products?
So Virginia, the state itself, is only medical.
Okay.
Virginia itself was supposed to roll out an adult use recreational market in 2024. However, the current governor has pushed back against that and basically has not done anything with that legislation that was rolled out before his term. And then when he came in power in 2022, he just basically tabled it. And so we've been sort of in limbo ever since then. So basically, it's legal to consume and possess cannabis in Virginia, but there's nowhere to legally buy it unless you have a medical card, in which there are only 5 medical dispensaries across the entire state.
Oh,
Virginia's
geez.
Virginia's a big state too, so I mean it's completely underserved in terms of the actual infrastructure for the cannabis community. So there was a big need. There was a
Mm-hmm.
big need for responsible retailers and just for people to safely acquire their cannabis therapies and medicines, because the black market is huge out here. I mean, it's massive.
I
The
believe it.
black market is just as big in Virginia as it is in California. I mean, you have illegal pop-ups, illegal shops, just all kinds of black market activity happening out here, and it's because there is no proper legal infrastructure. And we would love to be a solution to that, but the state just hasn't carved out a reasonable path for us to do that yet. So we've just been operating in this hemp retailer space ever since then, trying to do the best we can, but it's difficult without the regulatory support.
Yeah, unfortunately, I have a little bit of understanding of what you guys are going through because I mean, that sounds pretty much similar to Nebraska. We've passed it for medical, and the governor and the politicians are dragging their feet because we used a ballot initiative last fall to get it to go. And now they are being reluctant to put forth anything so we could get some medical retailers and some honest people up and going. But it sounds like, yeah, it's sad. It's a sad thing that they're doing, and especially it sounds like where you guys are at. For we're not to the part where we, I'm sure the black market's still pretty thriving around here, but I've heard of stories out in California of just pop-ups. I've had some buddies that lived up there, and sounds like you guys are some of the similar. You got, sometimes you'll just get in a farmer's market, a guy just sitting on the corner. Here you go.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it could be that. I mean, yeah, they happen at all times of day, usually at night and on the weekends and stuff. They just kind of fly by night operations and other retail spaces. I'm not here to name names or anything like that, but it's just like, it's frustrating when you try to do things the right way, and then you not only is it made extremely difficult to do things the right way, you're also simultaneously characterized with the people who are doing it the wrong way.
Yep.
It's like you get hit from both sides of it. You're
Yep.
you're trying to play by the rules, but you're also being labeled as someone who's not playing by the rules when you're actually trying to help make the rules make sense.
It's that gray area that they don't like. And as soon as you're in the gray area, nothing illegal, but it's all perceived that way because they've done a good job of spinning anybody that isn't corporate America as to be suspicious and what are you guys doing over there type situation.
Yeah, you
Wow.
just
Yeah.
you get lumped all together. It's yeah.
So do you got how many do you got a retail spot, a couple retail spots, or how's your
Yeah,
business doing out there?
we have two retail locations, and yeah, the flagship store has been open since 2019. We've got a another spot on our downtown walking mall out here in Charlottesville that we opened in 2024. Um, yeah, we are really fortunate to have a really strong customer base. We've got a lot of support in our community. We've been really diligent about fostering that relationship with our clients and with our community. We're not just some one-off operation here. We live here in the community and we participate and we're here to serve those people. So we're fortunate that we have good support from our customers.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Are you guys you growing it yourself or are you getting it from a different source? How are you guys what are you guys doing on that front or how's that working out for you guys?
Yeah, so we're just a retailer. We don't like own any farms or do any grows or anything like that. I mean, personally, I've had a hand in those things before in the past, but Greener Things itself is just a retailer store, so we buy
Okay.
from other wholesalers and distributors.
Okay, that makes sense. I didn't know you coming from California, it sounds like you've been a part of some bigger operations in that capacity, so I didn't know if you were replicating that back where you're at or going to just the true retail side.
Yeah, just retail for now. I mean, we would love to be a little bit more vertically integrated, but again, the infrastructure just isn't there to make that make sense right now. We do some light processing. We have a hemp processing license, but basically all that means is just breaking products down or repackaging
Hmm.
products or things like that. Just really light, but we're basically just retailing things. But the company itself is not, doesn't have any sort of corporate backing or anything like that. We're 100% bootstrapped. Started this from the ground up and have just, built it into a substantial business all through the support of our community.
Oh, that's awesome. So you said it was you and a partner. You guys just kind of got together one day saying, "Hey, I see this need in the community. You think we can fulfill it?" What was that like
Yeah,
starting up for you guys?
yeah, basically. So it's me and two other guys who started the company back in 2019. Um, And one of those guys is no longer involved in the operations of the company. Still has an equity stake, but he's more or less a silent equity investor holder at this point. And then I have one other operating partner who lives in Texas, who's been a friend of
Oh,
mine for years. So he operates a lot of the. His name's Eric Welch, and he operates a lot of the back end admin type of roles, whereas I
okay.
focus more on the day to day ground operations here for the store and just helping the staff and overseeing the product and all that kind of stuff.
Interesting. And he does that from Texas?
Yeah, yeah, that's where he lives. We initially knew each other in Los Angeles, in California,
Okay.
working in this industry out there, and then we both moved out of California for personal reasons, but still had the vision, still involved in the industry, and saw identified the need here in Charlottesville, and yeah, the rest is history.
Nice. So what was that like partnering up in the beginning? Was it stressful? Was it tough? I know you said one is no longer there. Was it just matter of differences, or was it just something that he just didn't want to be involved? How was that kind of for you as a small business starting up?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's definitely been a challenge as a business owner and as an entrepreneur. Yeah, I mean, I won't sugarcoat it. Like, yeah, there are definitely some personal differences that led to sort of a falling out with at least one of the guys, and even Eric and I don't even, then my current partner, we don't even always see eye to eye. So it's always a challenge, navigating personalities and just trying to find a common ground for the sake of business.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's just better just to go separate ways, and coming to that resolution amicably is a challenge in and of itself, especially when there are hundreds of thousands of dollars on the line.
Yep.
So, personalities tend to get a little excited in those types of scenarios, but we've weathered those storms as best as we can, and it's just a part of business. It's a part of life, and at the end of the day, you got to push the business forward so we can all survive and thrive.
Yeah, and I know exactly what you're going through in that. I've been in business what 10, almost little over 10 years now, and the initial guy I started this business up, Blissful Botanicals up with, was a friend. I grew up next door to him. We started this, and then it got into I started doing majority of the work, and then button heads, clash of ideas, and then it ended up having to part ways. Unfortunately, it wasn't an awesome like, oh hey, shake hands, here you go, here's your buyout type situation. It was I hate to say it, akin to going through a divorce and diving into the assets, getting the lawyers involved. It was not fun, and but ultimately the business did survive, and we found an amicable way to buy them out, and it's worked ever since. So I mean, if anybody's going through that with their partner, you're not alone in this is, and I'm assuming most marriages are like this too. It takes a lot of work, and you gotta be able to come to some amicable agreements. Sometimes may not always be the best in your eyes, but it's like what you were saying, it's the best for the business, and ultimately that should be the main focus of it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, you're exactly right. And that you pretty much hit the nail on the head there. It's funny you said something there in the beginning that I've noticed that it seems like all business operators at some point, every business operator will come to a point where they feel like they're doing all the work.
Yep.
Everybody. I've heard every single business owner
Uh-huh.
that has been a complaint from every business operator owner. Like at some point, everybody says, "I'm doing all the work. Nobody else is helping me. I'm not appreciated." Like everybody gets in that mode. It's just like you have to come to a certain point where you're just like you have to trust in your partners and say
Oh
like,
yeah.
okay, I'm working my ass off, they're working their ass off. Maybe they don't see everything I do, maybe I don't see everything they do, but like as long as things are moving forward, then one foot after the other.
Oh
You
yeah.
just have to set those emotions aside sometimes. But and then sometimes people really aren't holding up their end of the bargain,
Yeah. I was gonna
then it just
say, and
doesn't
there's
work out.
times where they're
So
just, yeah, they're
it's a
literally
weird
dead
thing.
weight, and you're like, shit, hold on, no, I'm tired of dragging you along with this, come on now.
Right. Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, that's always been the
It's a
the
balancing
pitfall.
act. saying.
It is, and I'm assuming you got what you said, 2 stores now. What's
Yeah.
it been like for you with managing people? Is what has been your kind of challenges, good and bad, with that?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's sort of a cliche, an entrepreneurial cliche where, the best part about running a business is the people, and the worst part about running a business is the people. So it's both, there it's an asset and a liability. When you have a great team that supports you and that has a common goal in mind and everybody's on the same page, then it's great. I mean, you're at the top of the mountain and things are firing on all cylinders. But I mean, it just takes one person to really just kind of go against the culture or throw a wrench in the whole things, and it creates that butterfly effect where it just sends throughout the entire organization, and then you start getting into dissent and bad vibes and poor culture, and that's when you start making some changes. So again, it's just one of those things that comes with business, and you get better at it as you get more experienced with it. um, but yeah, it's a challenge to manage, but once you get a good team in place, it's great and it's necessary. I mean, nobody can do this on their own, or at least not very effectively. So it takes a village, it really does. And we have a good crew now, and we're happy where we're at, and so we're fortunate for that and blessed.
Oh, yes. No, I've saying I've heard, or it's just common sense, but hiring is guessing, firing is knowing. And sometimes interviews and people you hire, especially being a small business owners, they put on a good show, they talked a great game, and then when it came down to performing, sometimes it wasn't the same, and then sometimes it's people you thought, they ain't gonna do good here, but I got a weird feeling to give them a chance. They end up being amazing employee and just elevates the vibes and the culture. And you're 100% right on that. I mean, especially I'm assuming being retail, having a retail store, that those vibes and that culture shines on the sales floor. It's like if that's not positive there, you could be chasing people out of the store if I'm understanding it right.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we're very selective over here at Greener Things, both in the products that we carry, but also in the staff that we hire. So and that's been true since the beginning, and it still is. But I think in the early days of hiring, when our staff was a little bit smaller, I put a lot more emphasis on the technical expertise side of things. Like I really
Mm-hmm.
want to hire people who were like basically weed nerds, people who
Mm-hmm.
just like love weed and love to learn about it and love all the ins and outs and all the different things and all the new trends that come out in the culture. Like that's who I was looking for, those types of people. But as we expanded, and it can be kind of harder to find people that really have that niche set of skills. But as you expand, you start to put more emphasis just on the culture and the vibe fit and who's going to mesh well with the rest of your team, because it's a very fluid dynamic when you're working with a team of people, and you can't just stick a random person X with random person Y and just expect them to get along and work well together. You have to really be considerate of who's going to work well as a team and who's going to work well with the culture and serve your business with the goals that you ultimately are trying to achieve.
Yep, 100% there. We're more of a business to business wholesaler ourselves, so we do a lot of manufacturing, but I run a small sales team now, but at one point in time it was rather big, and I remember thinking to myself a couple times, sitting in my office listening to everything going on outside the door with the calls and the bickering, and I was just like, sometimes I'm like, there's a couple people making this literally like high school. And the he said, she said, but like what you were saying, that was in the beginning. So then once I kind of understood the ins and outs of like, oh, shoot, okay, need to avoid people like this. They're going to cause drama. And then once I kind of got it to a point, the sales team I got now, the vibes, are you good? They work well together. But it took some time. It wasn't something that, right out the gate, for at least for me, it took a few hiring and firings and a few years of kind of learning the complexities of the inner office workings, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But so what,
And
do you guys do any online sales, or is it mainly just retail sales?
yeah, so that's something we're sort of in the middle of revamping right now. We've had some online sales. We had a decent online sales presence before, but then we had to go through sort of a transition with banking and point of sale systems and then a whole website revamp. So right now, most of our sales are based locally, brick and mortar, but we're rolling out a new website here by the end of the year, and hopefully be getting a little bit more online traction going. And we're also just by necessity needing to pivot to more online based sales just because the regulatory landscape here in Virginia is so uncertain, that we need to be able to pivot to a broader market if necessary.
No, that's smart. That's smart. What kind of steered you in that direction? You said kind of the regulations and stuff popping up kind of got you going, hey, I need to expand this, or was there a specific item or something that kind of said, hey, I need to check out these, go further into the online sale?
Well, I mean, like I said in the beginning, the products are always changing. It's always evolving, shifting sands. And so right now, THCA is a big, hot topic conversation. It's the natural precursor to Delta 9 THC, and is what a lot of the products, especially inhalable hemp-based products, are labeled as in terms of their THC content. Like the flower is sold as THCA flower, or vapes are sold as THCA oil, because the THCA technically falls outside of that Delta 9 THC definition, and so that
Hmm.
that's how it falls under the definition of hemp. You know, um, More or less, people like to call it a loophole, but it could also be just a different interpretation, if you will. Regardless of how you feel about it or what your interpretation is, it's totally natural, it's totally safe, it's been there since the beginning, and it's again, this is something that people depend on. And if
Mm-hmm.
people don't get their flower, whether it's called THCA or Delta 9 THC or whatever, they're whether they get it from us or from a black market or from a pop-up or from the street corner,
Mm-hmm.
they're gonna get it one way or another. And so we would rather, sell them flour that's been lab tested, inspected,
Mm-hmm.
vetted out, properly processed with good practices, rather than send them out on the street corner or a pop up where they could be getting who knows what.
Oh yeah, 100%. You don't know what they were using, the residuals, the level of toxicity in the soil that it was growing in. I mean, it baffles me that, they haven't just gave up on it and just started regulating it. It would help so many more people out if they would just federally decriminalize it and just, realize that there's no control. But
Yeah.
it's, once again, it's like a profit motive thing because certain things have already been in place. It's more reluctant to try to change something that's been. Yeah, it's sad, but it would actually serve the people a lot better because then it, like what you said, it would clean up the industry. It would provide like, hey, if you're going to do this, at least provide some level of testing, some level of understanding what, what it could do to the public in a sense.
Right. And just to answer your question, yeah, I mean, so now a lot of states have identified this THCA and are going after it, basically trying to
Mm-hmm.
impose statewide bans and raise scare campaigns against it and make it sound like it's something that's scary and unnatural and that shouldn't be there, when really it's been there since the beginning. It's just, just something we haven't known a lot about since then, but it's the same thing as regular Delta 9 THC. It's just that's the form of it before it's activated, before it's decarb, before it's
Mm-hmm.
heated up. But it's all the same THC. But anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, so they've identified that they're going after that, and it all just comes down to the beginning of the conversation where there's sort of this internal civil war where you have the players who are already in existence and they see this THCA or these hemp retailers or even CBD
Mm-hmm.
manufacturers coming in on their market share, and so they hire lobbyists to get in the ear of governors or congressmen or the office of the secretary, and and they say, hey, you've got to enforce all these laws and regulations that out that ban all these unsafe cannabinoids because it's a public safety health issue when really it's not. It's a market share issue.
Oh yeah.
So yeah.
No, we've been facing that in the kratom industry and then on both sides because they're trying to lump us together. Like here in Nebraska, we've been fighting both of that as well. They've done their big campaign to try to get that all off the shelf because that's the loophole that a lot of people have been finding beneficial around here. And so yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. It's just unfortunately these old fart politicians and people that have already made it don't want the rest of us to climb up there with us, in my opinion. So they're trying like hell just to keep things the status quo instead of allowing it to be free.
Right. Yeah. So
But
it's almost like you have to advocate on two different fronts at the same time. You have to advocate against reefer madness and just the safety of cannabis therapy in general, but then you also have to advocate to sort of pull back the curtain of the internal politics to say like, hey, this is really why it's not legal yet.
yep.
If it's not like a safety thing, like you've been hearing about legalization for over a decade now, right? Well, why is it
Mm-hmm.
not federally legal yet? Well, follow the paper trail, follow the money,
Well,
follow the people who don't want other players involved.
yep. And I mean, you hit it on the head with the reefer madness and just how it became illegal in the first place. If people actually understood and knew that it was put on by just a couple people, Harry Anslinger and Randall Hearst,
Yeah,
and how they
Randall.
teamed up together and came up with that campaign to push it for their own benefit. It's just astounding to me. But that's kind of the wool that's been pulled over the American people's eyes, and especially I feel like that when it comes to like big pharma and a lot of the stuff they push out and peddle as well. It don't. They just want you well enough to keep you in their little wheel of constantly taking something. And God forbid anybody that tries something holistic that comes from Mother Nature, they've tried to demonize and villainize and push off into the gray area, make it hard to run businesses with it because of that. And it's just, I'm hoping, and what I feel like is a lot of people are waking up to the treachery. A lot of people are waking up to the wool and pulling it off their eyes and saying, no, I see the benefits of this plant and I understand the benefits of this plant, and it could do more good than it could do harm. But that's also my opinion when it comes to I'm in the industry, so I've delved deep into it. But I feel like having conversations with a lot of other people nowadays, they're starting to catch on and starting to get it, and not start, when you have something with someone, they kind of look at you funny, like, oh, you're a criminal type sitch. Now they're kind of going, well, yeah, I like what you're talking about. I'd like to know more. Are you
Right.
seeing that along with the industry you're in? You're seeing it more growing in an exponential rate, or what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, yeah, we definitely see some changing public perspective. I mean, that's been a gradual process since the beginning, just the gradual public acceptance and gradual acceptance of public opinion, that sort of thing. But I mean, look, this plant has always been under the influence of money, power, and politics. I mean, you
Hmm.
since the beginning of modern civilization and its role within there. I mean, most of us understand this plant's been around for thousands of years, millennial as a medicinal plant, but over the last 150 years, it's been thrown into this political landscape. And you mentioned Anslinger and Randolph Hearst. I mean, Anslinger started a whole campaign against hemp 100 years ago because he didn't want his fucking newspapers printed on it because he owned all
Yep.
the paper mills, right?
Hmm.
Like it goes that deep. Like because
Yep.
this guy wanted to use trees for paper instead of hemp.
Hmm.
Like we started this whole reefer madness campaign that we're still dealing with today, and it still happens, right?
Yep. No.
It still gets
Yeah.
demonized. The misinformation gets out there, even like I keep coming back to it, even within our own industry.
Hmm.
Misinformation, mischaracterizations, demonizations, like because that's the playbook, right? That's
Hmm.
the playbook since the beginning of time. Well, if we don't want competition, we'll just make it seem really scary.
Oh yeah.
That's what you do, and then
Oh
label
yeah.
it a public health crisis. And so
Yep.
anyone who pushes against it just looks like a piece of shit, like who doesn't
Yep.
doesn't care about public safety. When really you're like, no, that's bullshit. Like we
Hmm.
we are for public safety. Like we're actually here to serve the community and to help it be more safe. It's those guys that don't want us to help out the community because they want it all for themselves. So yeah, it's anyway to answer your question. Yeah, we see a lot of that. We see a lot of the changing perspective, and at Greener Things, we serve a lot of different types of demographics. People ask us all the time, what's your target demographic? What's your target market? Who do you typically see coming in your store? And it's a wide range. I mean, I would say the majority is going to be anywhere from that 30 to 45 range would be the bulk of it, but we have college kids coming in and we have senior citizens coming in, and there's a good representation from both of them. So we're pretty proud of the fact that we have a broad appeal, because we're really all about the therapy, the medicinal
Oh,
value of the plant. We're not trying to we're not trying to push it one way or another. If you want to use it medicinally or therapeutically, we're here to help guide you. If you just want something that will help you recreationally, well, we can serve that too. It just depends on what your needs are, and whatever they are, we're here to help you achieve them and achieve them responsibly and safely.
yep. I mean, my answer to your question would be humans, all the
Yeah.
human race. I'm here to help. And yeah, and unfortunately, man has figured out the best way to stay in power and to stay in control is to divide through fear. They that goes both ways, and that's politics 101. How do you keep the American, or how do you keep people from coalescing to find a better way? Well, you spread fear and keep them divided through that fear. And it's sad, but I feel the future is brighter. I think things are coming along to where I think there's going to be we're at that precipice, and I think once we get over on the other side, humanity is going to be willing to take that next step. And I think a lot of the holistic remedies and things that have been going on for thousands of years will actually get some credibility and some credence behind it. And I think it'll open up a big lane for humanity. I think we need to get away from being the sickest versions of ourselves in this country, and get back to more of a healthier, better living versus the what we got going on now, in my opinion.
Yep. That's right.
Well, Ross, that'll kind of wrap us up for today. Where can people find you at? Show us a plug. Let us know where we can get at you at.
Yeah, sure. So, again, my name's Ross Efaw, EFAW, and the store is Greener Things CBD Dispensary out here in Charlottesville, Virginia. Our website is greenerthings.care. That's
Oh,
greenerthings,
nice.
care. You can find us on Facebook at Greener Things CBD Dispensary, and on Instagram, Greener Things CBD. Uh, Yeah, and we're working on getting more socials out there too. So it's pretty much all Greener Things CBD dispensary. Hopefully one day we can just be a regular old dispensary, but that's how you find us now.
Heck yeah, heck yeah. Well, everybody, go and take a look at him. I appreciate you coming on the podcast and being on here. We'll catch everybody later. See ya.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
This has been The Inspiring Minds with Blissful Botanicals. I hope you enjoyed this episode. To find any of our great products, log on to blissfulbotanicals.shop. I hope to see you again soon. Eyes open, no fear. I'm your host, JR Knopp.